school. We, from there, looked at more details around recent injury crash history, making sure it was just city streets, and then ensuring that we had at least 2 candidate locations in each city council ward, so we're spread around the city, and making sure that we had candidates across what we call our transportation equity priority area tiers, which help us get a sense of socioeconomic diversity and equity. So that narrowed to 51 candidate locations that we released in February for public feedback, and that we did additional analysis on. So that analysis included collecting speed data, sometimes just in one direction or on one street, but sometimes these are 2 city streets, and we were collecting data on both. And then we did additional analysis looking at a number of factors, including more crash analysis, getting feedback from the community, what were community members saying about candidate locations, as well as really digging in the details of those locations. Is this a location that is fair based on the current design for us to have a traffic safety camera? Or we wanted to make sure that we're not having any gotcha locations here, that these are locations where it's very reasonable to expect that people are not going to go 10 or more miles an hour over the speed limit. And then we were really focused on making sure we had balance across the city and where the cameras are located. So that got us down to 5 pilot launch locations and 11 high priority expansion locations, which I'll talk about in just a second. Before that, just a note on community feedback. So we heard from about 1,200 people during this most recent comment period. And overall, the feedback has been increasingly positive as we've been doing more feedback, more recent engagement, and have been sharing more details about our approach. We kind of reaffirmed things we've heard previously in engagement around the general approach and people's interest in having the pilot. And then overall, we heard more support than opposition across all the candidate locations, and we heard quite a lot of ideas of other locations people were interested in us potentially locating cameras at. So you can see here of folks who clearly offered a viewpoint in our engagement. 83% offered support, while 17% were opposed. So we know that there are people who have questions, along with the many people who are offering support for this pilot. We know it's important for us to build the trust for everyone in our community as we do the pilot. So our initial launch locations for the traffic safety camera pilot in Minneapolis, which is planned for September of this year, are these 5 locations, which we'll also have in a handout. So as you can see, we have 1 in downtown, which is 3rd Street North near 1st Avenue North, 1 in North Minneapolis, Fremont Avenue North near West Broadway Avenue, 1 in Northeast, 18th Avenue Northeast near Central Avenue Northeast, 1 in South, in the near south part, Chicago Avenue South near Franklin Avenue, and then 1 in Southwest in the farther south part of the city, Nicollet Avenue South near 46th Street. So these locations will have cameras going up and testing starting before our launch in September, and then these would be the locations where we're initially offering warnings and then ultimately citations as well. Our plan is to expand from there starting in 2026. So we anticipate adding more speed camera locations early in 2026. We will be choosing those from these high priority future expansion locations identified here, which again are across the city. There's at least 1 candidate location in every city council ward, and these reflect the overall balance of the factors we were looking with in our analysis. We will be doing additional analysis later this year or early next year to inform our red light camera locations. That will mostly be collecting red light running data and analyzing that to add to the analysis we've already done for speed safety cameras. There's a lot of overlap between the two analyses, but really getting to that fine-tuned data. And then we also plan to continue to add locations as we have available capacity. We're limited under state law to a maximum of 42 locations during the pilot period. Those 51 candidate locations that I mentioned earlier that we identified in February are still locations we'll be considering for expansion. We may do additional analysis to bring in potential county or state roads to consider as well later in the pilot. This is a pilot, so we are trying things. We want to learn. We want to see what works best. So part of that will be that we're going to move some locations around periodically, and that may include a couple of the initial locations, although we anticipate at least a few of those will be out for the duration of the pilot period. All right, so that's basics on location analysis. I'm going to pass it to my colleague Ahmed to cover some of the process details, and then we'll take questions at the end.
All right. I hope I'm as loud as, not as loud in a bad way, but I hope you guys can hear me. My name is Ahmed Adow, A-H-M-E-D, last name A-D-O-W, and I'm the director of Minneapolis Traffic Control, which is the agency that was selected to provide the enforcement for the pilot. Before I go into my section here, I just wanted to also echo what Ethan has mentioned about the pilot. The main goal and the why behind it is to save lives. That's really the main thing that we are really working on. And the intent is to educate people and change behavior, hoping that by the time we do data collection for the pilot, and the numbers that Ethan has shared will not be as high as what we have all witnessed. So that's the goal. So for traffic control, it will be driver, let's say any driver who speeds 10 plus, the camera will detect that speed. And then it will collect evidence, such as taking pictures of the rear plate number of the vehicle. There will be a short video that will also be collected. And then all the evidence will be sent to an enforcement agent, which in this case will be Minneapolis Traffic Control agent. The agent will review the evidence, verify the citations for its accuracy and all that. And then from there, they have the authority to issue a citation, or they have the authority to issue a warning. And then first offense, as you guys can see, is a warning. Everybody will get a warning. And then from there, it'll be a $40 if you're 10 plus, and $80 if you're 20 plus. There will be an option to take a traffic course if that's your first citation. And in that, taking that course, you will get an exchange for the dismissal. It will be grounds for dismissal for your citations if you go through that class, that training. And the third offense still stays the same, the $40 and $80 if you're over 20. The vendor, in this case, Novo Global, will collect all the evidence, mail it to the registered owner's vehicle owner, and they'll receive all the evidence, including the pictures, a link to the video. From there, they'll have the option to either contest the citation or pay the citation or take the traffic class or submit a sworn statement or meet with the hearing officer for them to present their case. And those are grounds for, depending on whatever evidence they present, citations could be dismissed. And the last section that we have is, as we all have said multiple times, that citations do not go on the driver's record, except as required by state law for CDL holders. And citations cannot be grounds for arrest. or revoking driver's license. So these ones do not go anybody's record. It will not increase anybody's insurance. It's a parking ticket. And our goal is to continue, as I mentioned, to educate individuals and also change behavior so we don't have to witness the number of people that we're losing through speed. I think that's my section.
Yeah, so we can take questions now.
I have one for you on that. I thought that there was supposed to be a traffic agent that would verify the violation before a citation would be mailed to the owner, but I didn't see that on the points up there. It just said Nova was going to send them. Can you just go through how that works?
Sure.
Got to the mic.
Oh, right. So the way it will work is Nova Global will collect the evidence, picture of the vehicle, the plate number, a short video, and all that. Once they collect that, as I mentioned, I think line 3, all that will be line 3 or yeah, it'll be sent to a trained city employee, which in this case is Minneapolis traffic control agents. So the agents will review and verify, and from there they have the authority to submit. So the vendor does not have the authority to issue a citation. It has to be a city employee, in this case Minneapolis traffic control.
And then this class, what would this class, would this be a city-run class, or would you go to a driver's ed school? What type of class is this?
I'll have Ethan can answer that.
Yeah, so the traffic safety course option is the state is developing that course, and then our Novoa Global will be the one that administers that, so provides that option for folks, and then from that it'll be, a form will be submitted that the city will dismiss the citation once the class is completed.
And does the offender then pay to go to this class? Or
It's a free traffic safety class online.
Can you
Talk about the CDL holders potentially getting this on the record. Is that only if they're driving their commercial vehicle, or what if they're driving their personal vehicle?
Yeah, so under the state law for commercial driver's license holders, and this is based on federal law that does not allow for moving violations to be what's called masked for commercial driver's license holders. And that law applies whether the driver's in their personal vehicle or in a commercial vehicle. So that's required under current state law.
Can you talk more about the appeals process? So is that handled by the court? Is what I believe I've read in the past.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm just interested.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are going to read this and they're going to think, but what if my sister was driving a car? Or what if my friend was driving the car? Like a situation like that versus a more documentable situation where it's like I filed a police report, my car was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
So
So citations, people will have the option to contest the citation through the hearing officer. As of right now, it's not an administrative citation, it's a petty misdemeanor, just like any parking citations.
the hearing officer, like
At the county,
Henry
yeah.
County,
Yeah.
at the state court. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all that information will also be listed at the back of the ticket, just like the parking tickets that we currently have. The uniqueness with this pilot is people have the option to submit a sworn statement to say that if they are not driving, they can submit that as an option, say that I was not driving that vehicle, whatever document that you want to provide. And from there, also they have the option to take the class, as we mentioned. That will not be grounds for dismissal. And if there are any other situations like stolen vehicles and all that, which majority of people will have to call the police to get a police case associated with a stolen vehicle. So they'll have to submit those documents where it will be considered and it will be grounds for dismissal as well.
Will there be any appeal process? There won't be any appeals initially because it's just warnings.
The first offense, everybody gets a warning. And the second one is the citation. And then you also have the option to take that class. Yeah.
When the contract was approved, I believe you said that you expected it to pay for itself by 2026. It's about a $4 million a year contract, or $3 million a year, I should say. $40 fines, that's 75,000 tickets a year. How many do you actually anticipate the city will be buying?
So we do anticipate that the program will generate revenue through citations, and our hope is that that revenue is not that much, right? What we see in other places is that traffic safety cameras reduce that speeding at 10 or more miles an hour by somewhere between 65 and 97% at camera locations. And so we're closer on the 97% side. Should be great, because then we're getting to the outcome we want, which is safer streets. In any scenario around the country, there are still folks that are going to get citations and have to pay those. And so there will be revenue generated. Based on what we've heard from other cities, we do expect that revenue would likely be able to cover the costs of operating the program, but we'll see. We don't know for sure. The overall traffic safety camera contract that was authorized today by the mayor after the council authorized it last week allows us to expand up to potentially 42 camera locations. So certainly with the initial 5 camera locations, we will not be utilizing all of the capacity in that contract. It won't be costing $4 million a year, and we certainly wouldn't be generating that much revenue. So it's really dependent on how everything's going and how many camera locations we have out at any one time, and then exactly how folks are responding. We hope they're responding really well. And I will note that we have the program in Minnesota has the lowest fines that I'm familiar with for a traffic safety camera program anywhere in the country, but at a level that in those places that have it, it's still proven effective at reducing that unsafe behavior. We're also the only state that has the first violation's a warning for everyone. And that's because, again, our goal is, hey, just don't do it again, right? Our goal isn't to send out citations or generate revenue. The goal is to change that unsafe behavior. If you can do that based on one warning, great. We've achieved our outcomes. And so we really have been mindful of really focusing on the outcome.
The law's a little vague on where the warnings have to be placed ahead of the camera. Do you guys have a plan for how far ahead of the camera you're going to put those warnings?
Every location has to be signed, and there is state guidance that is out in draft form right now that references national guidance around placement of signage for traffic safety cameras. So that, or any other automated enforcement. And so we will be following that guidance. It's close. It's that balance of close enough that you're close to the camera location, and so people aren't surprised, but also enough time that people can react. So that's the balance. I think it's less than a block typically, I think, is where it lands.
Looking at those specific locations you picked, I know they had to meet all the requirements, but what about those few first locations stood out? Were you looking for the most dangerous, the most accidents?
Yeah, so it really was a balance of a lot of different factors. So first of all, our location that had the most injury crash history, when we look at it over the 5-year period when we looked at it in more detail, that location, we had installed traffic safety treatments there in 2021. And since those treatments were installed, we had seen a huge reduction in injury crashes at that location. And so that's the level of analysis we were getting to when we were looking at the more detailed analysis. We also saw at that location, I'm sure aided by those treatments that we had done, there were not a lot of drivers going 10 or more miles an hour over the speed limit, which was fantastic. So we were really looking for that balance of, at the core, is there a speeding challenge at a location? So all these locations, I think, have at least 8 or 10% of drivers are going 10 or more miles an hour over the speed limit. So a clear speeding challenge. We've got injury crash history. That's significant for the area. And all these locations on top of that are, they don't have upcoming, like big construction or other thing that's really going to be disruptive. We haven't done immediately recent improvements in the area that might mean that maybe there's going to be safety improvements coming without the camera. And we felt like overall the context, close to schools or other areas where people are walking or otherwise moving around, the context was appropriate. The street design was appropriate, not really encouraging people to be going speeding. So, and then ultimately making sure that we were spreading them fairly across the city as well. And so, all those things balance together. And I will say it's not all that you'll look. All that analysis is in the study that will be online in 30 minutes. But I will note it isn't just the highest injury locations, because the reality is we see those concentrated in only certain neighborhoods where the top injury locations are, and it's important for this pilot to be spread around the city. And so it's a balance of those things.
Ethan, as you talked about, the challenge is that high injury, intersections are often in the lowest income neighborhoods, and then you have this tricky balancing act of, are we going to be punitive in a very, socioeconomically vulnerable neighborhood versus the need to diminish traffic deaths, and that being, interrelated with socioeconomic factors as well. Do you feel that these locations strikes that balance?
Definitely. I think you look here, and these are spread across our equity priority areas, our transportation equity priority areas. These are spread across different sections of the city. All those things are required under the state law, but also, that's what makes sense based on what we've heard from community members. And then I will say, we hear a variety of feedback on that. We've heard from folks who say, I live in one of those areas that has higher crash rates, and I want more cameras in my neighborhood. And then we've also heard from folks, I want you to make sure you're spreading it around to make sure it's equitable. And so overall, we've tried to balance all of that and make sure that we're meeting the state law and spread it across the city. And, I think the reality here is we can have more reach that way too, right? We can, overall, these are just 5 locations, but we know we have a reckless speeding challenge in Minneapolis. It's just a reality right now. And we need to be able to reduce that speeding at these locations, but also we hope that that helps to spur a change across broader locations and across the city and as well. And so having it in different parts of the city is very helpful for that, because we want folks in Northeast as well to be driving safely and not have those injury crashes happening there because of high speeding.
So with all of the, you said it's $40 for the first ticket, or for the first time someone has to pay, with all the taxes that the city accrues on people, is this a $40 tax, or is this a $40 ticket, or is this a $68 or $70 ticket?
So the fine, there are no, specifically under the state law, there are no extra fees added to the fine. Now there are, if you never pay your ticket, you get late fee, and then eventually it can go to collections if you have 2 or more unpaid traffic safety camera violations. But there are no extra fees, and just like a parking ticket doesn't have extra fees, but that is different than if you get pulled over by an officer for speeding, then yeah, you would have a couple extra fees that are defined in state law. But specifically, though, that does not apply here.
So the cameras that we're using now, it's just going to be for speeding with possible red lights next year or down the road. Will it be the same set of cameras used for red light running, and how would that play into the system paying for itself? Because I'm guessing that if you add red light runners in, you're going to generate more tickets?
So the cameras that Novoa Global provides can do both speed and red light enforcement in the same camera. We have to be recording information from the back of a vehicle. So any location that's a two-way street, we need 2 cameras because they have to face in both directions. We also, if we have a red light camera, typically we'd be able to locate in a direction that can do speed and red lights in one direction, but then you'll have to locate in a different, slightly different location to be able to get the red lights in the other direction. So there's some we can do with both, and we anticipate doing both. I think it's likely that most red light camera locations will also be speed camera locations because, as I shared, speeding is our #1 challenge. We also have a big challenge with red light running, but speed is our #1 safety challenge. So, yeah.
How does that count to the 42? Like, is it
Yeah.
is it just 42 locations for either thing, or is it?
Yes, it is 42 locations, so separate locations. So if we had a speed and red light camera at the same location, that would still just be one location.
And based on what you just said, also, when it says here Franklin Avenue South near Franklin, or Chicago Avenue South near Franklin Avenue, that means the speeding is being tracked on Chicago, not on Franklin.
Correct. So in that particular location, when we say near, the exact detail, it'll be somewhere within like a block or so, either direction of the location, and we're working with our vendor to define exactly where based on, where can we place it? Like we have to have the space and be able to get power and other things like that to be able to place the
Basically,
cameras.
The block is a safe thing for us to say.
Yeah.
You mentioned the $4 million that the 42 locations would cost. Could you say what the 5 initial locations are going to cost out of that budget?
It's the 5 initial locations. I think it's so far for this year, the launch period. It's I guess I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head. I'm sorry, and I don't want to be off. So, but it's you can kind of do the math from there. 42 locations estimated. And it actually would be more like that's like $5 million a year, more like 42 locations, because we're building up to in locations. So we're not, when we have that 12 million maximum contract, it's assumed build up time, right? We're not just going straight there. So, but yeah.
You said you're looking at county and state roads as well. Would that be within this same pilot program?
So we did not consider county or state roads with this initial analysis. We anticipate doing additional analysis in the future that might bring in some of their roadways. We do need their support to do that. And so we've heard from folks interested in that, and we see locations that could be, from our initial analysis, that might be good candidates, but we need to do additional conversation with them, and we would have to do additional analysis to determine those locations. And there'd be more engagement and other things before we would add any of those locations.
So that's why, like, you put it on 18th Avenue Northeast near Central and not on Central.
Correct. Because Central is the MnDOT road, Franklin's a county road, so, but the locations where we're locating are all city streets.
Of these 5 locations that you picked, is there one that's really sticks out as being like particularly dangerous as far as speeding?
I think all of these locations have speeding challenges. Like I said, they all have 8 or 10% or more of drivers going 10 or more miles an hour over the speed limit. I think the one downtown is close by here, right? It's 3rd Street. When you talk about that level of speeding right in downtown in a busy area, right near the warehouse district and Hennepin Avenue, and there's a lot of people, a lot of activity there, and it's quite a lot of speeding for such a busy location with a lot of people around, and I think we see that in the number of injury crashes we really have in that area between like Hennepin and 2nd Avenue North. And so, yeah, we really think we can impact a lot of crashes in that area by slowing folks down to a reasonable level.
Mendota Heights obviously is doing this on a much smaller scale than you, but they're doing it before you by a month or so. Is there anything you can learn from watching them from August 1st until whenever you start?
Yeah, we've been talking and collaborating with the City of Mendota Heights regularly and on the pilot, and we're partnering on with and helping to share feedback on various details. And so I think we'll continue to learn from each other. MnDOT, the Minnesota Department of Transportation, is also doing a warnings only pilot in work zones. So we would expect to learn from that as well. And overall, this is a pilot, and I think cities across the state will be looking to how does it go for all those agencies, and ultimately the legislature will be as well, and deciding is this something we're going to continue beyond the pilot period, maybe provide opportunities for other locations to consider as well. So there's a lot of learning we're all going to be doing. We've all been doing it up to this point, but I also just say there's a lot we've already learned from other places, and we're really excited to launch the pilot, and we're ready to do it. And we've got a vendor who has done this in a number of our places and really is focused on the same things we are, which is achieving those safety results while doing it in a way that is fair and equitable and builds community trust.
Do you have anything to say go ahead. Do you have anything to say to folks who have Big Brother issues with 42 cameras being spread around the city, watching them?
I think overall, I'll just, we hear a variety of opinions on this, but like I said, most people are offering support for this pilot. So I know that there are a few folks who have concerns. We will be doing everything with transparency. We've built in a lot of things to protect for privacy. For example, the cameras can only record information if they sense a violation. They can only be used for enforcing speeding or red light running. They can't be used for anything else. They cannot take a picture of anyone and have them be personally identifiable. And so we've built in a lot of those protections for privacy into the pilot, and so I think we hear that in the feedback that yes, there are questions, but then people, when I say all those things, a lot of people say, "Thank you for thinking about those things. Yes, we need to improve safety," and that's the tenor of the feedback that I've been hearing from most people. And the other folks, I hope we can build your confidence as we implement the pilot.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I've got copies of our press release and printouts of the maps.
Thank you. Now we're synced up. He steps out of the way. 1, 2. Sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And around that side. Whoop.